the Sony a7R II. Now guys, there's lots of videos out there, lots of reviews, lots of stuff out there about how many megapixels, how many this, how many that. That's fine. You guys, all of us need to get techie and geeky time to time, and that's fine. Go ahead and watch those, read those, do whatever you want. I don't need to do that because it's already been done to death. I'm going to talk to you guys as if we're sitting here, you're standing where my camera is, and I'm just going to tell you what I think of the camera and why I love it. In my opinion only, this is the best camera in the world, especially for the money. Now, before everyone has a heart attack, guys, it's just my opinion. Whether you value my opinion or not is up to you. I am a professional shooter who has shot all over the world. I'm currently standing in Tasmania, Australia. I just finished up 3 weeks of workshops here in Australia, and it was amazing. But this camera and I have traveled all over the planet. I'd venture to say that I have done a more wide variety and probably the most shutter actuations of any person on this planet. Now, how provable is that? I don't know, but I'd be willing to put it to the test. I've shot NFL games with it. I've shot Major League Baseball with it. I've shot fashion with it, portraits with it, weddings with it, landscapes with it. Pretty much anything you could do with this camera, I've done. And the reason is because this is the best overall camera in the world, 42 megapixels. Why is that important? It's not so much important as to how well you can print, because even 12 megapixel can print pretty good, guys. It's important for you to be able to crop in. So for those photographers who may be a little less experienced, being able to crop into your image after the fact and have all of that detail there, that's really important. Dynamic range, this camera can really pick up the shadows and really can do some amazing things. So when you guys are taking pictures and you want to pull up some of the shadows and drop down some of the highlights, this camera enables you to do that. The dynamic range in this camera is off the charts. The 5-axis image stabilization enables you to really shoot handheld down to 1/6 of a second. Now that's going to vary depending on user, but 1/6 of a second handheld, that's amazing, guys. It's absolutely amazing. It's here in November, it's mid-November here in Australia. I've had this camera since August, and I've shot a million things with it, guys. And as we're speaking, I'll share some of the images right here in the video so you can see what I'm talking about. Guys, this camera is just absolutely amazing. It shoots 4K video internally. Now, some people complain about the overheating on it. Well, here's the news. All DSLRs and mirrorless shut off after 30 minutes of use. Why? Because otherwise they'd be classified as a video camera. Video cameras and DSLRs or mirrorless cameras are classified differently for import and taxation reasons. So if you're looking for something that records and doesn't overheat, or the sensor doesn't overheat, as do many DSLRs, then buy a video camera. This wasn't meant to sit on a tripod for 2 hours. I don't know why people have such a heart attack over that. The second thing is RAW. You know, people, when this camera first came out, they can really complain about the RAW and the fact that it wasn't 14-bit. Well, it is now. So Sony, thankfully, thank you Sony, has listened to the masses and has given us an update so that issue is taken care of. Let me tell you why I love this camera. And I say this as a former Nikon user. Here at my workshop in Tassie, there was a Canon user who, after watching one of my videos, picked up the a7R II to see what it was all about. In some of my videos, I actually do a super crop. So I show the normal picture, then I do a super crop, so you guys can see just how much detail and resolution exists in that image. He said after watching that, he decided to try the a7R II and give it a go. So while we're at the workshop, he said, you know, my only holdup is being able to use lenses. Like, I have all my Canon lenses, and I don't want to get rid of them. And I totally understand that. Canon has great glass, Nikon has great glass, as does Sony and Zeiss. So he said to me, you know, that's my only hang up. And I said, I kind of teased the group and I said, does anybody have the Metabones adapter? So he had the Metabones adapter, but he was using a different lens on it. And I said, and then another guy had the 70-200 Canon L lens, 2.8. I said, give me that lens. And we recorded this. So I took that lens and I put it on the camera and I started firing, and that thing fired as a native lens would fire. It started focusing as a native lens would focus. That's the game changer. That's the game breaker, is the fact that you can take a Canon lens and put it on a Sony body and it works like a Sony lens. That's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. One of these days Nikon and such will get the program, and Sony will crack the code, or Metabones or somebody will crack the code on that, and they'll be able to do that. for Nikon lenses, which would be terrific. Now the only caveat to that is you have to have those Canon lenses have to be electronically driven, meaning they have to be 2006 or newer, so just keep that in mind. But what does that mean? If you're a Sony user and you want more lenses, well, guess what? If Sony doesn't have it, you just buy a Canon lens. That's awesome, right? You just buy a Canon lens. Or if you're a Canon user, you can just take all your lenses, which is the vast majority of your money that you spent and invested into photography, and buy one body, and you're set. You're absolutely set, and that's tremendous. Now, keep this in mind. This only works on the Sony a7R II. a6000, a7 II, a7R, a7S, a7S II. You're not going to get that compatibility with Canon lenses, so keep that in mind. The other reason it's also amazing is that same compatibility that Canon users with their lenses have with the Sony a7R II, Sony users with the A-mount lenses have with the a7R II. There's a lot of A-mount lenses, like I use the 24 Zeiss f2 lens. I use the 7400 Sony G lens. Those are all autofocus, and I use the LAEA3 adapter with my a7R II to get amazing autofocus and native type performance. It's amazing, guys. It's how I shot my NFL games. It's how I shot the Major League Baseball game with that lens, and it made a huge difference. Let me tell you another reason why it's awesome. When I shot those NFL games, I wanted to be able to zoom in further than 400 millimeters. So I turned on this camera, you can turn it into APS-C mode, which crops the sensor. Well, when you crop a sensor on a 42 megapixel camera, that makes it 18, 19 megapixels. Still tons of resolution, right? So I was able to take that 400 millimeter lens and to turn it into 600 millimeters. That's awesome. That's really ridiculous. It's amazing that we have this technology available to us. There's the other things you guys may have watched in some of my other videos that I love, the Wi-Fi, the remote trigger, all that type of stuff, guys. But I don't want to make this a super geeky thing. There's certainly a number of people who have made geeky, and that's fine. I'm not making fun of them. We need those folks, and I watch some of those as well. But I want to talk to you just as normal photographers. This is why I love this camera. I love the feel of it. I love the grip on it. I love the fact that it has the tilt screen and all that, just like a lot of the other A7s do. I love the fact that it's full frame. I love the fact that I love the viewfinder in this. This viewfinder is amazing. And when I switched to Sony, I really went a lot with the live view. You guys may know that if you watch my videos. But man, I don't know what it is with this live view. This electronic viewfinder is so awesome. I've actually started shooting more through the viewfinder. Anyone who says an optical viewfinder is better than an electronic viewfinder is just not wanting to get with the times. Being able to see the picture before you take it, being able to see the changes as you're making them, as you're looking through the camera. That's a huge, huge bonus. I don't understand why people do that. The Zeiss Batis lenses that are coming out, I have them, and being able to put them on here is amazing. The Sony lenses that are coming out and already have are amazing. They're beautiful glass that work on this, and if you guys watch any of my videos, I demonstrate that. I absolutely love this camera. Battery life, you may get, same on the other Sonys, you may get, I don't know, depending on 400 shots. So guess what? I carry 4 batteries around at all times. No big deal. Let's get over the battery issue, guys. No big deal. Okay? Our cell phones don't last all day. Why are we having such a fit over the batteries? Okay? If you want a small body, small weight, if you want to have a small footprint, you're going to have a small battery. If they're going to create a battery slot that's twice as big, you're going to have a camera that's bigger. Do you want a bigger camera or a smaller battery? I want the smaller battery, and I can just carry a battery or two in my pocket. Not a big deal, guys. Get over it. What else do I love about this camera? The focus on this camera is incredibly fast. And why? It has 399 focal points. 399 focal points, okay? Huge difference. Huge. Other things, guys, the ISO performance on this doesn't quite match the A7S, but it is close, and for it being 42 megapixels, that's pretty much unheard of. So guys, let me put it this way. I own 2 A7 IIs, an a7R, an a7S, and the a7R II. Since I got this lens in early August of this year, 2015, I haven't shot really with anything else. I just love it. I absolutely love it. And if you do want to really, reduce your file size, you can just turn to APS-C mode and you're going down to 18 megapixels. So you really have a lot of flexibility there as well. One last thing on the 4K, would I recommend this as the go-to video camera or video mirrorless or video DSLR? No. Guys, that's why they came out with the a7S II. Yeah, the a7S II is for video. a7R II is for stills. Yes, they commingle. Yes, you can do some crossover. Yes, 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 yes. But that's why they created two separate bodies, guys. a7S II, video. a7R II, stills. I hope that makes sense. So when I'm talking the best overall camera in the world, that's why I'm talking about this. For $3,200, $3,500 US, whatever it is, I don't think you can buy a better camera on the market. I remember when I first came into photography 8 years ago, there was Canons at the time, 8 years ago, selling for $7,000. So the fact that we have this kind of technology jammed into a small body and that it enables us to do so much is crazy. Now you guys watch me, you know I'm kind of nuts. I do crazy things, go crazy places. I've shot with this camera in full-on rain. I've dropped this camera probably at least 6 or 7 times. See the battle scars on this puppy? This guy is 4 months old. I would venture a guess that it has at least 1,000 actuations would be my guess. That's the other thing that's really cool is this camera is rated for 500,000 actuations. That's the most in the world. So let's kind of get over the thing about Sony's being toys. That's just ridiculous. It's weather resistant. The only difference is it doesn't have the gasket in here. So if you're going to shoot in Antarctica and you need that, or if you're going to shoot where, you know, I don't know. I can't think of anything because I've tortured this poor camera and it just keeps working. I've dropped it so many times only because I'm stupid and I don't use a strap. So that's why I should use a strap. And these cameras, every time it's happened, I just pick it up and go again. So even though I've dropped it, tortured it, let it get rained on, put it in mud, I don't baby my gear. I take care of my gear. When I'm done using it, it goes safely back into my think tank bags. It's good to go. But guess what, guys? Look, I don't baby this gear. You have your gear for a reason, to use it. I make my living off of using this camera. So guess what? I don't treat it like a toy because it isn't one. I treat it like a full-on professional piece of gear because that is exactly what it is. And those people who don't want to recognize that, they're just putting their head in the sand. There's no other way to put it. So lens-wise, I think lenses, there's plenty of lenses nowadays for the Sony mirrorless cameras. I think that issue's been put to rest, especially now that the Canon lenses are available to Sony users. What else could you want? You have access to all Canon lenses. So if you're getting new into the market and you see a lens that you need, people tell me, oh, it doesn't have the 70-200 2.8. Yeah, it has a f4. Oh, it's not the 2.8. All right, go buy the Canon one. Well, that's not Sony. So what? It works. Well, it's still not a Sony lens. So what? You guys getting my point? Some of these arguments are so stupid. I don't understand this. If Sony didn't make a camera that worked for me, I wouldn't use Sony. It's that simple. So I hope you guys understand that. So just keep a level head. Don't have blind loyalty, and just find the right gear that works for you. I can't say that enough times. I love this camera. It's my puppy. It's my baby. You know, all the other things I've spoken about, focus, magnification, and so on and so forth. It's just absolutely awesome. You can use high-speed sync with this. I just released a video using high-speed sync with this camera and some of the other A7s as well. So I can't find anything that this camera doesn't do. Cons, things I wish the camera did maybe a little better. I think the only thing Sony really could do is it does 5 frames a second, and that's been enough for me. And my buddy Gene Lauer uses it, and he's a full-time NFL photographer. But I've shot Major League Baseball in the NFL with this at 5 frames a second, and it's been more than enough for the record. The buffer on it, you don't hit the buffer even at 42 megapixels in RAW. You don't hit the buffer until like 30 frames. Guys, who shoots 30 RAW straight? Come on. Not even NFL guys do that. I sit next to them at the games and I do it with them. I sit alongside them guys. A lot of them even shoot in JPEG. Oh, what would I add? I don't know. Maybe if it did 8 frames a second. Other potential cons I've heard people talk about, it only has 1 SD card slot. Yeah, but again, this has to do with how big do you want the camera. So do I need 2 SD card slots? No, for me personally, the one is fine. Truth be told, guys, for those who have to have, I've never shot that way. It's very comfortable for me to just use one card. Even when I shot with my Nikons, my D3, my D700, I had 2 card slots, a CF and an SD, and I would always just use